Well, there's the hook, huh? Did I capture your attention? Because I hate to disappoint you, but the answer is unequivocally a resounding and persistent no. I read Camus' The Myth of Sisyphus. Throughout it, he circuitously navigates around many of the same broad, sweeping themes and tells us that we cannot escape the pain and suffering that life throws at us simply by remaining in the tension that exists by acknowledging the absurd. All we can really do is to refuse to take an easy answer. I think that's the important message I took away from this philosophical work. Easy answers of all kinds, while comforting, are just a form of resignation to something bigger than ourselves, to avoid having to remain in a state of constant tension with the bleakness of what reality presents us. By staying present in the absurdity of our lives and remaining fully conscious, fully aware of how silly the world that we exist in is, that's how Camus says that you can obtain some form of freedom from the cruelty we're forced to undertake. We may not be able to erase suffering or its marks on us from our minds or our lives, but we don't necessarily have to feel hopeless or feel like everything is arbitrarily meaningless. Hope itself is not really the answer to questions like, why do we continue to suffer? Because it's just as vague and flimsy as the same logic that we can just as easily use to justify despair. It makes sense that in order to fully accept the powerlessness in the face of the adversities that we face, whether sensible or not, and even in the face of our own death, we have to abandon all notions of both hope and despair. Those two absolutist concepts are basically just the same idea wearing different outfits. The only way to free yourself may be to stop trying to find some kind of inherent, deeper meaning or bigger idea to all of the suffering in the world. I guess to some degree, what I see in all of this is just an idea of, it's not that deep, bro. But obviously, that's a bit intellectually hollow, right? We're all looking for some kind of guiding path, or maybe more accurately, some kind of framework that we can use as a vessel to carry the rest of our feelings, our hopes, our thoughts, and our worries about ourselves, society, and our place in it. The difficult answer to this is that there aren't any deep, universally rooted frameworks that will finally make things feel okay. Many people like to try on different hats, pretend to care about all manner of ideologies, flipping from one to the next. I know that this is especially present in political communities. It's almost a bit comical how quick most of these people might be to wholeheartedly swear up and down how devoted they are to a particular idea, and then literally several months later start espousing an ideology completely divorced from the very thing they said that they were going to devote themselves to. I suppose the lesson here is to not trust people who have told you that they've devoted their lives to some random brand of politics that they only just heard about last week from their latest parasocial friends on the internet. I think people are just looking for meaning. It's the constant postmodern, or however many posts you want to arbitrarily tack onto that prefix, longing. In a world devoid of meaning, what do people do now to recreate a new meaning? I think this is the same kind of reasoning behind people trying to ascribe the meaning, or lack thereof, in their lives to some higher force they can't really understand. It seems in this broken world, whether you worship money, God, prestige, or glory, you'll find a way to feel satisfied. This is the simple kind of promise that writing the check of your powerlessness and suffering off to some random framework affords us. It's always about finding comforts we can ease ourselves into so that we don't have to ask the difficult questions anymore. Camus talks about this in relation to what he calls philosophical suicide. This is a similar concept to what I just talked about, but with extra steps. Ultimately, he describes this concept as a framework that necessitates the believer to take a leap of faith, and in return it will comfort all of your lingering anxieties of the meaninglessness of this world. His solution seems to be that we just stop trying to create meaning. It's a futile task. And only when abandoning the need for it do we truly just live in the moment. We're not finding some inherent deepness in the tasks we do every day. We're not trying to go the route of Nietzsche and invent our own meaning through some self-ascribed template-like hierarchy we decide upon. We're just trying to live in the acceptance that trying to resolve the dissonance of meaningless suffering through the tempting cadences of some kind of spiritual or phenomenological escape is just kind of a cop-out. It might be a real coping method for many, but in such a chaotic and deprived world where most things don't even feel real, never mind the lack of meaning of it all, I really don't think these answers are enough for people these days. We can't just give ourselves up to a higher purpose when, as people, we have no concept of what any of that actually means. This is like me asking a cat that's in pain because it has a stomach ache to believe that if it takes the medicine I give it, then all the pain will go away. It might very well be true, but the cat can't understand my words, and it certainly can't understand the concept of pharmacology or any science for that matter. The cat only knows the world of a cat. Likewise, a person only knows the world of a person. Why should we be asked to contend with the world of gods and eternity, when all we know are people and finite lives? These frameworks are not sufficient to ease suffering in such a confusing time. I don't think the absurdism of Camus is truly enough to embrace the chaos of trying to find meaning in a meaningless world, but it is a very good answer that provides a very cogent thought experiment, and I think that's a lot of fun. It's also a great read because it fully acknowledges the grim realities of suicide, and it isn't afraid to immediately ask if the answer to all of life's questions might just be to end it. It does not agree with this conclusion, but I think it's good that it takes the stance of suicide seriously and engages with it as a real approach people take when confronted with the unimaginable, endless, arbitrary suffering that they face. I think something especially interesting to me is what happens in the moments that change someone existing, going about their usual routine in life, to suddenly someone with a lust to end their existence. It feels like it can happen dramatically and suddenly. And it's strange to think about. Deep down, we all possess the same base psychology to go through such an upsetting transformation, given a certain set of stimuli. It makes me realize we're a lot more alike than we are different, and we're all just trying to find ways to keep us from going over the edge of no return. I don't think anyone really has all the answers. It's not in religion, it's not in politics or philosophy, and it's certainly not in a random YouTube video like this one. I think what I do have from reflecting on Camus is that both hope and despair come from the same kind of evasive leap. Every framework that promises to lull your despair and anxieties away really just exists to comfort us enough from having to confront the difficult questions. And maybe most importantly, we're finite creatures, bound by the world we actually know. We're never going to be able to base our lives around concepts beyond our realm. Camus helped me with thinking through all of that, which leads to why his conclusion is so difficult for me to swallow. He says that the difficult answer we need to accept is not to try to resolve meaninglessness, but to just hold on to it ceaselessly, just to continue to stand up against that uncertainty for eyes wide open until your last dying breath. I'm not sure a person can even do this. Yes, it sounds very flashy and noble, and it feels philosophically bold. There's a lot of passion to it, and I can really respect that. But at its heart, this too is not a way for a person to live their life. Maybe it's my own failing to not be able to see the meaning in staying lucid inside the storm. Maybe I just don't see it yet. But all I know is that as satisfying as it would be to give you a resolution to this difficult question, I'm just not going to give it to you. Because that would be yet just another diversion or a cheap cope. And the world has enough comfortable platitudes without adding mine to it. While I can't really answer this myself, maybe you can. Can you live in the constant tension Camus says that we must endure? Do you find meaning in struggling against a meaningless world that affords us no answers, or is this not enough for you too? Personally, I have no idea, but I think I want to continue to sit with this as an open question rather than just take more comforting, easy answers. Well, you decide.